Hello, everybody. This is your favorite Warlock Jay here. Happy New Year's. 2020 kind of sucked. But here's hoping that 2021 will be better. To fight COVID boredom, I decided to find a new hobby. And that would be wargaming. Now, if you haven't been around for the last couple of thousand years, wargaming is essentially you have an army, your opponent has an army, they do get out, find whatever objective they're supposed to do, and whoever's left standing / has the most points wins. That's pretty much the long and short of it. The most famous wargame most people, even if they're unfamiliar with the hobby, would know about is Warhammer, Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40k, and all its other associated brands. Necromunda's the only one I know. I'm new to this hobby. I'm sorry. Anywho, this is Reality's Edge, and they were published by Osprey Games. Osprey Games has been around the wargaming hobby for quite some time. Originally they got their start from printing historically accurate manuals about the war and the soldiers that they fought in. And they're basically so that, if you want to know how exactly red your red coat army is supposed to be, they had a book for it. My friendly local gaming store, The Complete Strategist, actually sells them. They're quite interesting reads. Even if you're not into wargaming, if you're into history, I highly recommend looking into them, because they're just fascinating reads. So anyways, Reality's Edge, published by Osprey Games. This is a cyberpunk wargame. So basically, instead of building an army, you basically build a ragtag group of cyberpunk ne'er-do-wells, team up against your opponent's cyberpunk ragtag ne'er-do-wells, and you just basically duke it out and see what happens. There's 10 types of miniature model types you could build. The models in this game this system is minis agnostic. So long as the minis are more or less the same scale, you can use whatever you want. This game recommends anywhere between 15 to 35 millimeter. Me and my friend Givara, who is the only person who plays this game with me. Also, Givara, if you're seeing this, hi, it's Juan. I hope you are doing well. I've opted to use 15 to 28 millimeter. We figured that would be a good size. And Givara, my friend Givara, is more adept at miniatures games than I am. I'm more of the Dungeons and Dragons magic guy, he's more of the Warhammer guy. So, this was a bit of a learning curve. But that being said, there's at least 10 types of miniatures you could build with this. There's your console cowboy, who's kind of like your hacker / decker, if you're familiar with Shadowrun. There's the drone jockey, which is your rigger, if you're familiar with Shadowrun. I'm going to be alluding to Shadowrun, just as a heads up, I'm going to be alluding this to Shadowrun a lot of the time, because Shadowrun is one of my most prominent exposures to cyberpunk role-playing games, which is what I'm more familiar with. So, console cowboy, decker, drone jockey, rigger, ganger, which is kind of like your cannon fodder street tough who has one pistol and a chip against the world. And Forzer is more like your commander type. He's the one who brings everything together. Infiltrator is basically your stealth person. Mask is kind of like your face / social manipulator type guy. Street Dog is more like, your street-based medic, your healer, your cleric, whatever term you wish to use. Sprawl Ronin, wow. Because apparently you can't use Street Samurai now. It's basically, you're Street Samurai, you just can't say Street Samurai for some reason. And Tracer, which is your, parkour type guy, but cyberpunk. You're given, 800 cryptocurrencies, which is kind of what you use to buy buy models, gear for your models, things of that nature. Speaking of gear, this is very gear porn heavy. Which is, when you're playing a cyberpunk game, not necessarily a bad thing. Like, they have guns, they have melee weapons, they have, like, hardcore support weapons, which ranges anything from, like, flamethrowers to sniper rifles. They have upgrades for your weapon, they have upgrades for your armor. They have cybernetics, they have upgrades for your cybernetics, they have apps. They have whatever you want to equip your Cyberpunk warband, they'll have it. Also, each character, each model type, is only allowed to carry up to a certain number of gear, which you won't really have trouble with starting out, because at most you'll have your armor, which will take up at least one slot, your gun, which may take 1 to 2 slots depending on what you pick, and then your grenades are free, your drugs are free. Yes, your character can buy and use drugs in this game. Don't do drugs, kids. Basically, like, so much is kind of, like, tacked on. You don't really have to worry about carrying capacity right away. That being said, I think that's kind of user-friendly, because when you're starting out, you want to give your characters everything, and that's what I certainly did when I first built this game. And I'm going to get to the on the cryptocurrency problem in a second. But, like, you want to give your characters everything. This book will allow you to, for the most part. But yes, there's also NPCs that could run amok during your job ops. This is their version of runs from Shadowrun. And there's actually several different job types you could pick from. You actually would have to roll for it. And so it goes from 1 to 10. Combat works in this game, before I get to the job ops, is pretty simple. You take a D10, you roll it, you pick whatever stat it's associated with, you add it to that stat, and if it's higher than 10, you succeed. If it's lower than 10, you fail. 10 is a critical, even though if you're doing it in combat, it doesn't do anything special. If you're doing it if you roll 1, you automatically fail. In combat, nothing really bad happens. You just miss, and your turn ends right then and there. There are several job ops, and each job ops can net you some info, which you can use to turn into cryptocurrency. There's cryptocurrency, which you will allow you to buy things for your characters and whatnot. And then there's rep. This is in some versions of how this game is played, rep is what you use to help you win the game. In one version of this game, if you have more rep than any other warband in the game during the campaign, you essentially win the campaign. What that would entail would depend on what the campaign is. So yeah, these are like your standard secure this, wipe out this team, guard this place, things like that. So it's not like it's your typical war game fare. Those are what the job ops are, just with a more cyberpunk flavor. This game is also very NPC heavy. So during your runs, you may encounter one, if not multiple groups of NPCs. These could be anyone from like hallucinating junkies to like Idoru fans, which also idols or Idoru in Japanese are a thing here, which is a nice William Gibson reference. Also there's a mnemonic warrior, which is a nice nod to Johnny Mnemonic. I like it when Cyberpunk alludes to other Cyberpunk films. There's also rent-a-cops, cyborgs, all that jazz. Do I have any complaints about this game? The cryptocurrency problem is one thing that I want to talk about. So each player starts out with at least with rules as written, 800 cryptocurrency points. What they would use to start their, what they would use to, start their warband. Which is fine and dandy, but it's very easy to fall into the glut of gear trap porn, in which you want to equip your character, and then you have nothing to buy more gear to pay bail for characters who are arrested. Yes, members of your warband can get arrested in this game, and you would have to pay bail for them. And the awards for completing a job ops could be a mere pittance. So, for example, you have to roll d10 to see how much it cost. On a roll 1 to 5, you get 10 cryptocurrency. On a 6 or 9, you get d3 times 10 cryptocurrency. On a 10, you gain 1 info, and you gain you gain 1 bit of point of info. Now, this is also highly sought after because you could also, depending on what campaign you're running, you could opt info to be the winning attribute instead of reputation, or rep for short. Yeah, it is very difficult for you to make money in this game. If me and Givar would ever run like a full-on campaign to this, we'd probably just tweak the numbers just a little bit. Also, according to rules how it's written, you have to buy back each member of the warband for each job op. So, like, say if you bought like 500 points worth of miniatures for a job op, and you only have like 300 cryptocurrency left. Well, you probably won't be able to hire your whole team again. So, me and Givar at home ruled it so that, like, whatever your starting warband is, they're permanently on the team. There's different types of models in this game outside of, like, your Sprawl Ronin, your Council Cowboy, etc., etc. There's the Showrunner, which is kind of like the de facto leader of the warband. There's the perma-hires, which are permanently hired onto the warband. And then there's the freelancers, which will be bought on time to time depending on how the job ops work. According to rules I have written, you have to rebuy your perma-hires. You have to rebuy anything that starts as a freelancer, and your entire warband is nothing but freelancers starting out, except for your showrunner. That's a little bit much, in my opinion. Now, I don't have much wargame experience, and I don't know if that's how it works in, say, like, Age of Sigmar, 40k, or like other war games. I don't know how many of them there are out there, but that sounds like a bit much in my opinion. The rules are also a little bit wonky. As you can see here, this is not a booklet by any means, shape, or form. This is about 315 pages of information here. It's going to take a while to digest this. But once you get the rules handled, it's just fine. But just know it's a little bit to get into. Would I recommend this for your starting war game? If you're interested in the hobby. That all depends if you are willing to do some reading and if you're a Cyberpunk fan. If you're a fan of Cyberpunk 2020, Shadowrun, My Tabletop role-playing game, Sprawl, and you're willing to do some reading, like I said, this is 315 pages of information that you have to go through. I highly recommend this. If you're a seasoned wargamer and this is like, and you're looking for something new outside of like Warhammer to play, or BattleTech, or whatever your shtick is, this will be old hat to you. I highly recommend this for the seasoned board gamer who's looking for something new. For the new player, your mileage may your mileage may vary. Sorry, it's almost midnight here, and I haven't gotten much sleep lately. I'm sure most of you are the same way. But I'm glad that I chose this as my starting game for starting game for wargaming, because like, if it were any other game, I don't think I would be into it as much. But because it's a genre I like, with more or less concise rules that if you don't mind homebrewing a little bit, you totally can, it made me fall in love with the hobby. Right now, my friend Givara, who I already mentioned in this video like 4 times already, is teaching me how to play 40k. I'm starting to get the hang of it. But like, it's like, now I'm also looking to invest into Age of Sigmar, which is pretty cool. So I think this is a pretty decent gateway game to wargaming. What else was I gonna say? The art's pretty. The book is really held together. Osprey Games does a great job of making games. If you could find any of their games at a local game shop, I highly recommend them. I've heard nothing but good things about them. This game is definitely a buy. If any of you have played this game before, what are your thoughts on it? Please let me know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just let me know what you think in the comments. The typical smash that like button and share this video with your friends. And yeah. Good evening and good gaming, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Stay awesome.